Thank you all for joining us today. And again, thank you, Rajan, for your kind introduction. And thank you to Prince Badur for all that you do for us. So we have a wonderful group of 4 esteemed leaders working in the kingdom today. And our panel title is Industry Leaders Share Their Insights on How They Are Investing in Change. You know, Vision 2030 was announced in 2016, and in just 7 short years, it is absolutely amazing to see the change that that announcement has brought to the kingdom. So I would like to begin by each of the gentlemen introducing themselves and a little bit about each of the projects here in the kingdom they oversee, and then we can get into some questions on how change is affecting their strategic decision making. And what I would say, gentlemen, is be cognizant of our audience. They are filled with investors and developers that can come here and create further development within the kingdom. So James, shall we begin with you? A little bit about what you and your company are doing in the kingdom?
Very happy to. We're working with the Al Faisaliya Hotel here to advance and create an incredible luxury product to become, we hope and believe, the leading hotel in the capital of Riyadh. Mandarin Oriental has about 36 hotels around the world, so we're a very modest luxury hotel group, but we have 25 or so hotels under development around the world and a number of new projects coming through within the Gulf region, and are looking to grow progressively over the next 5 years with those properties.
Excellent. Well, I can tell you, as a Mandarin Oriental fan, pun intended, it's part of their ad campaign, I am staying at your property here, and it's absolutely lovely. As a wanderlust global luxury traveler who looks at all the various properties, it's outstanding, so kudos to you. Khalid, would you be kind enough to give us a little overview of your wonderful company, please?
With a pleasure. First of all, I would like to welcome all of the audience and also thank Pinch to manage to, I think this is getting too far away. Also to thank the Pinch group for being very, let's say, professional and making things differently happening, coping with all of the changes and also the vision of the country. So regarding what we have a plan, I think the vision of 2030, it's a very ambitious plan, and we are very ambitious to be within that plan, and I think we should thank God that we've been in existence since 40 years plus, taken into our shoulders the leadership and paving the future. Since then, within the hospitality sector and also the luxury experience within the hospitality sector. We have been developing several projects as we are an investment arm of King Faisal Foundation. Very diverse portfolio that we have, and also yet we have a very bespoke projects that will be announced. Some of these projects have been announced publicly. Some projects will be announced very soon, as we always mention. Also, Prince Mansour have mentioned that. All of the projects that we have, even though it is very diverse, but yet coping with the investments, of the hospitality sector itself.
Shukran. Ahmed, can you tell us a little bit about Rua Al Madinah, please?
Thank you, Edie, for giving me the opportunity to be part of this distinguished gathering. Rua Al Madinah actually is a subsidiary of the Public Investment Fund. The company actually is really working toward facilitating 30 million visitors to the kingdom as part of the Pilgrims Experience Program and part of the Vision 2030. The company is basically in real estate development and mainly in hospitality and retail. The company basically was established around one project, which is the main project. We have small projects, but this is the main project, which is Royal Medina project, which is actually being developed right now at the area at the east side of the Prophet, peace be upon him, mosque in Medina, Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. The area, or Royal Medina in numbers, it's actually is fascinating. Actually, it's developed in an area of 1.5 million square meter. It will house 47,000 rooms by 2030. It is actually very well spaced, and to enrich the experience of the visitors. It is about 63% of the land is for open spaces, where are there is no traffic, a segregation of the pedestrian from the traffic, and 37% only for the retail. About 225,000 square meters will be actually from that land. Royal Medina will develop the Islamic civilization village, where our different part of the Islamic world will be housed in that village, to also enrich the experience of the visitors. So basically to come to the mosque, but also to see other part of the world. In addition, we have about 100,000 square meter of gross leasable area for retail. So it's it's a big project that is part of Al Medina and part of the Al Medina, which has a lot of actually heritage site over thousands of years in the past.
Shukran.
Thank you.
And Jerry is Group CEO of Diriyah, and I've had the privilege to experience Diriyah myself. And as I'm sure he will tell you, there is only one Diriyah. And the fun part of his job is getting to host people like Messi and Ronaldo this past week. But Jerry, for those in the audience who may not be cognizant of what Diriyah is, can you please give us an overview?
Well, first of all, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for being here. A very special thank you, Edie, to you for your devotion to the kingdom. Your positivity is infectious to all of us. Jonathan, thank you for having us. A very special thanks to Prince Bandar and to our beloved friend Khalid. It's an honor for me to be with Ahmed, and what he's doing in Medina is breathtaking. And my longtime friend James Riley for his leadership with Mandarin Oriental, one of the greatest five-star hotel companies in the world. So I have the privilege and the pleasure to be the group CEO of Diriyah, which is the birthplace of the kingdom here in the capital city of Riyadh. We're a 14 million square meter development, 63 billion US dollars, that will include 38 hotels, 36 of which are already signed. But if you have an opportunity, come see me, because there's still growth in what we call Diriyah Gate 3. But I'm very pleased to say that thanks to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Diriyah. It's in immaculate condition. I'm very pleased to report to everybody that we just broke our first million visitors. We opened substantial assets, over $2 billion US dollars of assets in 2022. Our Bijari Terrace District, which is 20 restaurants, we were doing 10,000 people a night during Eid. As Edie said, we had a big week because Lionel Messi and his family had a beautiful visit to the UNESCO site, and on Saturday, Cristiano Ronaldo was visiting Bijari. So not only are we building this huge giga project at the birthplace of the kingdom and the ancestral home of Al Saud, but we're already operating and we're already welcoming delegations from all over the world. So this is a particularly great testament to the vision of His Royal Highness, our dynamic Crown Prince, because we're a Vision 2030 project that has already proven that it can build, operate, and expedite in 2022. So before we go to questions, I will also say that many of you know that the Crown Prince is very strict environmentalist, very strict on sustainability. We must protect our culture and heritage. We must protect our national identity. We must protect the country of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia environmentally. And so on sustainability, we have earned in multiple years platinum status on LEEDs. This is a great tribute to the Crown Prince, and I'm particularly pleased because he's given us all the funds on training and development and human capital that in multiple years now we've won Best Place to Work, and we're in the top 10 in the kingdom now. So 85% of our staff are Saudi, 36% of that staff are Saudi women superstars, 16% of which are in management, and what I'm most proud about is that 14% of our staff are from our community of Diriyah. So the future is very bright for Diriyah, and particularly bright because even within DGDA now, we're producing hundreds of future leaders for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to fulfill their destiny with 2030 and 2040 and beyond. So it's a great privilege to be with you this morning.
Thank you, Jerry, for that. And if I may dovetail to a question based on what you said, because you're in probably the most unique situation in that you are an expat living in the kingdom and have met KPIs and deliverables. I'm sure achieving all of those objectives were not without challenges. And so is there any advice you could give to this audience of investors, that lessons learned, or if they're interested in thinking about investing in the kingdom and harnessing the power of Vision 2030 and the opportunities, what advice would you give them as an expat here?
Thank you. I've had the privilege of serving in the kingdom now for 5 years. I had the privilege of entering the United Arab Emirates in 1991, and when I was president of the Khozama Entertainment Group, Royal Mirage, for all of you who know the one and only in Dubai, that's 26 years old now. Atlantis, which is Atlantis, the Royal Atlantis, this year will do $1 billion in revenue. It's a huge success. So if you look at the 30-year history of the Emirates, which deserves immense praise, the one thing for investors, it's that it's dynamic, exciting, it's well-funded, but the one thing that you have to do here is you have to be able to keep up with the pace. So we'll accomplish by 2030, which is 15 years, what our brothers and sisters have effectively done in the Emirates in 30 years, and what the fabulous Singaporeans have done in 60 years. So it's dynamic to come in, it's real, the commitment is solid. We have very substantial proof that what we're planning is not aspirational, because all of the backup, and this is the only country in the world I know right now where government is actually working harder than the private sector. So in lessons learned, if you come, you have to commit to the speed and the quality level of the Crown Prince. So it's not, well, we're gonna do this in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. If you come in, you gotta be able to commit, provide the resources, provide the training tools, provide the conceptualization and the standards. So the opportunities are abundant. We're keeping our fingers crossed because we're one of the 4 final cities to win the World Expo for 2030. We're knocking on wood that we get it. That will have a big transformative impact on Riyadh, all the giga projects, the new King Salman Airport. So I encourage everybody to invest. There's substantial incentives to invest, which my very talented friend Kusai said previously. Very dynamic Ministry of Investment with His Excellency Khalid Al. So, but if you come, you got to commit and move fast, because we're moving fast.
Thank you, Jerry. James, as Group CEO for Mandarin Oriental, one of the finest 5-star luxury resorts in the world, you represent both investors, operators, And as an operator here in the kingdom and as an operator globally, what differences do you see in operating here versus other parts of the world, and what advice would you give to potential investors?
I think the key thing from operating here and in most countries is to remember and focus on one's strengths and to sustain those. When I look at the kingdom, clearly is the resource and finance. There are some incredible new projects coming throughout the kingdom, but the real strength from a hospitality point of view in the kingdom, in my mind, is the great tradition of Saudi Arabic hospitality, and ensuring that that remains a point of focus, however great the facilities created, however expansive and wonderful they are. The real warmth, the welcome that is received, and the focus on that traditional hospitality, in my view, certainly in the luxury sector, but actually across the board in hospitality, will be critical. And therefore, the effort that the kingdom is putting in through and to the development of its people to ensure that there is a broad spread, real talented hospitality, particularly among the youth of the kingdom, and appreciating and transforming the importance attached to that will be key. So when I look at the kingdom, the thing I find most important, particularly looking here in this hotel, is to ensure that we really have a strong cadre of Saudi colleagues, young Saudi colleagues, a diverse group of young Saudi colleagues, to ensure that they can take forward our business both in this property and in other properties that I hope in time we will have within the kingdom.
Thank you. Khalid, if I may ask you, your company has been doing business here in the Kingdom and Riyadh for over 4 decades, and in fact, you were probably the genesis of developing this beautiful area. And we spoke a little bit about how food and beverage is becoming so critical to the vacation holiday experience, and that, in fact, I was just in Las Vegas a few weeks ago, and they said that is one of their biggest revenue makers right now, food and beverage, delivering these dining experiences. And I have always admired the actual cuisine of the KSA. And in fact, you have just opened a fine dining, luxury dining experience at Bujari Terrace. And if you haven't been to Bujari Terrace, please go, because it is an amazing, exceptional dining experience and eclectic venues. But you opened a luxury Saudi cuisine dining experience there. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how well received that has been? Because it's an audience now of an eclectic international audience. It's not just Saudis coming to dine there.
Thank you very much. I think this is one of the most important subjects for myself. And I believe that visiting any country, either you are in business or in tourism, the most important subject within your priority list during your visit would be what type of food that you're going to eat. So what and where is the main important subject within your visit. So, and also food becomes the ambassador of any culture that can take you through the path of any history related to that culture, related to that country that you are visiting. From that objective, this is where we started to create our ambitious plan to create a Saudi cuisine, where we think that Saudi cuisine to be positioned, and this is our aim, to make it the ambassador of the Saudi culture and history, reflecting the real hospitality within our DNA through our cuisine, and also taking you through different regions from the country, and also would be our real ambassador. So we started within the country, and we're going to take it abroad internationally, and it will be one of our projects. Yet there is so many other projects to be taken or to be developed very soon, where we have created and developed a new consolidated combined company, will be dedicated, specialized into the F&B sector. Why we have done this? Which haven't been announced yet. So this is something as a new news to the markets, that we have created a very ambitious a new company that will be the driver of the F&B sector within the country. There is so many big names that we're going to be introduced and announced very soon. It will make a big difference. It will make a big change into the market.
Shukran.
Edie, can I make
Please,
a
Jerry.
comment on that with Khalid to thank him? Because that restaurant that they did with us, Maze, I was at Bajeti Terrace last night, every night, just checking on quality. And they had a very interesting group last night because I saw some friends and they said, no, Jerry, you got to come and say hello to this table. And there was like a party of 6. One, I'm glad you're here. Wow, this is fabulous. Their restaurant, Maze. Where you from? We're Bahraini. Wonderful. So on the way out, somebody stands up and says, this is great. Where you from? We're Qatari. Great. And where you from? You know, so last night, just in the course of 3-4 minutes, a German delegation, Bahraini delegation, Qatari delegation, all seeing different types of Saudi food, all beautifully presented. So I think that's a wonderful thing, because now instead of Saudis all traveling out to go see all the great things, now people are traveling in to celebrate what's unique about Saudi Arabia. So congratulations, my dear.
Definitely. I think you should take the concept to America. It's missing. You know, we spoke earlier, and there are lots of Mediterranean and Italian and Chinese restaurants in all the countries we visit, but very rarely do I see a restaurant that is offering Saudi cuisine outside of the KSA. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Edie.
Thank you.
And I think this is if you may interrupt, I think this is the plan, and this is where we need to see a connecting point that people, they can come and appreciate and also experience the Saudi cuisine or the Saudi culture through these different dishes from different regions. And the plan and the aim is to position that restaurants with other restaurants, also reflecting the Saudi culture and hospitality in different countries.
Shukran. Ahmed, you are a KSA national developing a mega project within the KSA, a little bit different than perhaps an expat coming in to develop. And certainly your development includes spirituality, mixed use for all cultures to come and embrace not only the rich Muslim history of the country, but many, many different facets. What lessons learned or advice can you give the potential investors as far as being a local, developing in your local community?
If I would say, actually, Royal Medina is a local. It's a local, but it's an international company. Royal Medina is a local, international. The audience for Royal Medina, or people looking to visit Medina, we're talking about 2 billion. 2 billion visitors looking to visit Medina. So to enrich the experience, and from multinational. So we are working in the company, actually, we are with the variety of experience from all over the many nationalities. We have about 17 nationalities right now in Royal Medina. And the majority are Saudis, young Saudis, about 70%. But we have all the nationalities, and we are looking for the experience to enrich for everybody. Because the development is actually will cater for all the visitors from different budget. We have 2 stars up to luxury. So it's actually an urban planning within the city of Medina. So we are looking for all the investors, and there are a lot of actually opportunities in Royal Medina. Because of the destination there and because of the visitors. So there are in actually the construction, we have a lot. We are right now 16% in the main infrastructure. We signed so far about 4.4 billion riyal of projects. We have opportunities in the retail later on, and we have opportunities in after the operation for F&B and for all the supplies to the hotels. In the development, definitely we have a lot for contractors, designers, and everybody. I encourage everyone to visit, and I use this actually stage to encourage everyone to visit the booth of Royal Medina and to see the opportunity of Royal Medina. There are a lot of great opportunities for everybody to help and also to facilitate a visit out of those 2 billion to Medina.
Definitely. You even recently made an announcement, 8 Marriott brands will be coming to your project. So just a few of many.
We actually, part of the luxury, or different actually, luxury and others, we signed with Marriott for 8 brands, and we signed with Hyatt for 3, and wait for the announcement today also we are going to sign with another brand. So the development is underway, and the interest is very high. And the shortage in Medina for the hospitality sector is clear, and the Vision 2030 actually was announced at the right time to bridge this gap.
Shukran. So we talk about change, and I know Jonathan touched on a couple of sessions we'll be talking about AI and robotics, but when we look at how the world is changing from a tech perspective, everything from AI to chat GPT to crypto, blockchain, NFTs, it goes on and it seems never ending. But it is sort of a new world order, but that human touch we must never lose focus of. So even with all these technological advances, how are each of you and your brands and your projects still ensuring that the human touch is really there, particularly because the Saudi hospitality is so unique, and that should be part of the experience, not just the coldness of technology. I don't know, who would like to take this question first? Anybody?
I'd be very happy to
Please.
go first. I think you've said it very well, that it's absolutely critical that although there are going to be ever continuing and more significant technological developments, it is the human touch that comes first in hospitality. And indeed, the great opportunity of the hospitality industry for the future is that it's going to be providing an ever greater source of employment across the world. Because ultimately, when people come and stay in properties, particularly at the luxury end of the spectrum, it is for the engagement with colleagues, with people. For all the wonderful things people say about Mandarin Oriental, when I look at the guest comments and the feedback, 85% or more of the comments relate to specific interactions with colleagues, engagement with people, not to all of the wonderful design, the incredible F&B, the spa and wellness. All those things are critical to what we do, but at the heart of an experience is an engagement with colleagues providing hospitality. And in that context, therefore, it's crucial in my mind that when we look at hospitality, that it comes secondary in the sense the first thing is to be using it effectively to facilitate the colleagues to focus on guests. So when we look at IT, when we look at all of the different AI usages that we could have, the main focus is on how they can enable our colleagues to concentrate on guests and do what they do well. There are many things we'll want to introduce into our hotels over the coming years, but the most important thing is that the colleagues come first, and that the IT and the technology as it evolves is used to support them effectively.
Well, I can say you executed it beautifully. I checked in at 1:15 a.m., and 3 of your team members were really exceptional on the eye-to-eye contact and the service, and helping a damsel in distress at 1:15 a.m., I have to say. So thank you for that. And I know, Jerry, the way you deliver the experience at Diriyah is amazing as well, because you seem to merge the technology, watching the film at the end on the facility, while concurrently having people there to really serve. You want to talk a little bit about how you integrated and developed those two things?
You know, I'd like to piggyback on the very thoughtful comment of my beloved friend, James Riley. I've said for decades now that the most beautiful hotel in the world is not necessarily the best hotel in the world. The most beautiful hotel in the world is the one where you see yourself belonging there and where you have a profound sense of welcome, where you are seen, where you are heard, where you feel recognized and comfortable. This will never change. Now, the thing that's unique about Saudi Arabia is that it has a very unique national identity. It has a very rich culture. And what we learned coming out of COVID, where people were locked up for 2 years, is when they came back out, there was a new appreciation of luxury. And what went to the top of the scale? What is luxurious? Time. My time is luxurious. I want to go out and see things that are authentic. I don't want to see fakes and copies. I want to be welcomed, and I want to engage, and I want to understand that even though we may not share the same ideology, we share the same biology. So if I go to Thailand, I want to feel what's Thai. Then when I go to Malaysia, I want to feel what's Malaysian. I don't want to feel that in that country. When I go to Saudi, I want to feel Saudi. And then when I go to Oman, I want to feel Omani. So what we've done at Diriyah and what our young people have done is they say, we are proud to be Saudi. You are most welcomed here. But on the technology, we're going to use the most advanced technologies to ensure that your parking is good and that your room is comfortable and that all of the services that are there, especially on environment protection, are we using our water correctly? Are we using our power correctly? So if we can use the height of technology on sustainability like we're doing, but on top of the surface, it's human interaction where you are getting that genuine, authentic welcome. I think that will differentiate Saudi Arabia because of 300 years of rich history.
Well, you touched on it earlier about the importance of sustainability. I know this is very important to the Crown Prince in all of the development in line with Vision 2030, whether it's regenerative tourism and urban aquaticism, which basically are two phrases that the KSA coined. I mean, I don't think the rest of the world really heard them referred to in that manner prior. So kudos for that. As well as ESG, you talked about LEED certified, you just talked about the water. But all of that technology and coming out of a post-COVID world, the employees, it's a new day and age as well in change for how companies manage their employees. And that's really a new day, if you will. So how are each of your companies addressing managing the employees and being sensitive to the employees' needs in a different way, pre-COVID versus post-COVID, with all of these technology enhancements? Would anybody like to take that? Please, Ahmed.
Yeah, I can. Actually, I think pre-COVID or after or post-COVID, it's not like everybody in the same place. You know, now we have people working remotely, people that get used to work on these computers. We can have online meeting. We can work at different time. So I think the environment is changing, you know, from pre-COVID to post-COVID. So this is the main is the technology, and we can deliver, especially in design phase where you have offices all over the world. You know, it's really the technology helped in terms of this. However, in terms of delivery and construction, normally it is the site the other way around. So.
I think the one thing that this generation, they are so fired up, they're so passionate, and they see themselves as global citizens, not just local. But they won't do what their fathers and their grandfathers did. They will not stay in one company for 20 years if they don't feel recognized, if they don't feel motivated. So we do something every Thursday. It has a corny name, even though I love it, called Happy Thursday, because we're 2,000 people. But before everybody goes home to their families on Thursday, we take 2 hours, get everybody together, have fun, put everybody together. One family, each individual important, one team. And that way they go home to their families as a united group. But this young generation, compared to my generation, we worked hard, they work hard. But they don't tolerate nonsense. If you're doing things that are not going to protect the planet, not going to protect the work environment, you're going to hear from them. They got integrity. But I go old school like James, and I say, fundamentally, when people come to work, they must feel respected. They must feel, in order to be motivated, you have to know that you have to train them, you have to encourage them, you have to inspire them, because they'll give you back that 10 times to your guest. So I think the employee culture is very critical. You, as an individual, every individual, whether you sweep the floor or you're the CEO, you're critical to the success of the business, of the Vision 2030 of the kingdom. So in our culture, which is common around the kingdom, because that's the crown prince, the respect of the individual is paramount.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's, I think, a global thing today, not just exclusive to the KSA, with the younger workforce and their integrity and demands, if you will.
I think the impact of the pandemic's an interesting one, because clearly it had a very dramatic impact on the hospitality industry. Cost a lot of people a lot of money and caused a lot of colleagues to have an incredibly difficult 2-3 years with the uncertainty in terms of their employment, their income, and the impact on their families. Post the pandemic, there are, however, some positives. I think it's caused the people of the world to appreciate quite how important experiences and travel are to their lives, and what an important part of what they work for, travel and experiences are. And I think it's also then had the impact from a colleague perspective on employees having to focus truly on the quality of the employee experience. And that focus, which Jerry referring to, is critical in the way I look at it. We have to ensure that the experience we deliver is one that will encourage colleagues to remain in the industry. We have to recognize that the traditional forms of hospitality that expected people to work extraordinarily long hours for modest pay in difficult conditions with poor facilities back of house and for them in their leisure time needs to change, and also ensure that culturally hospitality is respected as one of the most elevated professions there is. If we look across the world, hospitality exists in different forms in different cultures. But if we go to the heart of luxury hospitality, which I often see as coming from the Alpine region of Europe, where some of the finest hotel schools are in the world, and one of the key things one sees there is that the hospitality industry is one of the highest professions from a cultural perspective in that area. And we have to ensure here in the kingdom and in other parts of the region, it becomes respected as such. And the commitment and investment I know the kingdom is making into training its youngsters and then transforming the perception of the people within the country towards hospitality is, I think, critical for the future.
I agree with you. Very, very well said. Because, you know, that old adage, take care of your employees, your team members, and they take care of the guests, the client. I think it's ever so more true today than it ever was. And to your point about the challenges in employing hospitality team members, through COVID, post-COVID, it has become a challenge. And a lot of these young kids starting out, they're getting recruited out of Silicon Valley with starting salaries of $1 million, really. And then you say, well, do I follow my passion to go into hospitality where maybe starting you're not at such a high salary? But it's interesting. The world is evolving and changing. And I can say I started my career at the bottom up, and it's been a fabulous career. To this day, I would rather have the experience of travel than any materialistic thing money can buy. So To each their own. It's hard to believe, but we are out of time. I want to thank the four of you very, very much for being such an outstanding panel, and I'd like to thank the bench for having all of us here. Shukran.